Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to a special Memorial Day episode of the Circus Catch. Before we get started, I just want to say some words about what Memorial Day actually means for me as a veteran and for everyone else who thinks it may just be a holiday for barbecues and getting sales at your storefronts and all that jazz. It's a 3-day weekend for everyone. I get that. And I want everyone to enjoy a 3-day weekend. But I also don't want anyone to forget what this day is truly about. It's not about me as a veteran, and it's not about my friends who are still serving their country. It's about those guys and gals who never made it home, who paid the ultimate sacrifice for our freedoms. It is a day to remember. I feel like a lot of people don't realize actually what it means because I get told, Happy Memorial Day, or Happy Memorial Day, thank you for your service to me as a veteran. I don't want to be thanked for my service today. I really don't want to be thanked for my service ever because I do it not to be thanked, but to honor and serve my country. And to say Happy Memorial Day, think about what that means. You're saying Happy Memorial Day. Seems kind of contradictory, in my opinion. But enjoy your barbecues, enjoy your sales, and now, enjoy a special episode of the Circus Catch.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to yet another episode of the Circus Catch. With me today is my good friend, Jesse Larson. Jesse, thank you so much for joining the show today on this Memorial Day weekend.
Thanks for having me, Jordan.
Of course. Now, Jesse, we just got done watching the college baseball selection show, literally just seconds before we got onto the air right now. Tell us how you really feel. How did this college baseball selection show go? Were there any surprises? Did everything pretty much go according to plan? What do you think was crazy about this show right here?
Well, for starters, Oklahoma getting in over Kansas State, I think that's a snub right there. I don't think Oklahoma quite had the resume that Kansas State did, although Oklahoma performed a little better in the Big 12 tournament. Kansas State got bounced pretty quick. It's a toss-up. You know, I was telling you about this earlier. We were laughing about it. Tulane getting in the worst record ever for a team to ever get in the tournament. They're 19-40, but they won when it counted and when it mattered, winning the American Athletic Conference championship. That's just a crazy story to me. I'm looking at our own regional, Oklahoma State's. If you've got Oral Roberts as the 4 in that regional, that is a 46-11 team when they've got the best record or best winning streak right now, longest winning streak, 18 games. Crazy to see that matchup, but it's, you know, like I was telling you, it's geographic based. So they're only an hour from Stillwater. Makes sense. Another thing that I was really surprised about, there's only one host in the West Coast, and that's Stanford. Other than that, Oklahoma State here in Stillwater is the farthest west a regional host is. And that's crazy. First time we have seen no Texas host in over a decade. That's pretty surprising. You got 3 hosts in South Carolina. One shocker that I didn't know about until I saw the end of the selection show, there's no first-time appearances. No school making their first ever appearance for the first time since 2001 and only the 5th time ever. So, you know, I'm really excited for Friday. I'm actually not going to be able to watch any games on Friday because I'm going to be driving out west. But, man, I'm so stoked for this tournament to start.
We were talking about it before the show as well. There's a couple of these schools where if they average 1 run per inning, their average of runs scored per game actually goes down. Like, that's how crazy some of the offense is right here.
And I think that has a lot to do, Jordan, with the fact that MLB cut down the minor league system by, I think it was like 20 teams. They got rid of a lot of programs. So the draft got shortened by 20 rounds down to 20. So now you've got more talent at the college level because they're not going to go in the draft or get selected in the draft. So they have that college experience, but they're also, you know, I wouldn't say they're pro ready, but they're definitely minor league baseball ready to be in the professional ranks. So we've seen the uptick in offensive production. We've seen an uptick in some strikeout numbers on the pitching side. Maybe not ERA and WHIP status, because a lot of guys at this level really struggle with control. But it goes to show that, cutting down the minor league system has helped elevate college baseball. Even in the home run era, now we're seeing even more numbers of offense. And I think another thing too, you look at some of these minor league, these low A and class A advanced teams, these players aren't making, much money. And in the winter months, they get second jobs and stuff. But now with the NIL stuff going on in college, these guys can make some money while going to school and getting an education before they go into this low A and high A ball and make that, $35,000, $40,000 salary.
It's a good point. It's definitely a more attractive offer than trying to go straight into the minors and having so much against you right away, whereas NIL is just completely made everything the opposite of how it used to be,
Yeah. So with that being said, Kent State not making it in, Arizona State, Kansas State, UC Irvine, the first four out. A buddy of mine and I are doing on Reddit. We host the virtual NIT for baseball. Since there's no secondary postseason tournament for baseball, we did the virtual NCAA tournament for the COVID season, and it was a real hit on Reddit. So if you guys want to check out the college baseball subreddit on Reddit, go check it out and catch out our virtual NIBT, National Invitational Baseball Tournament. We really appreciate it, guys. So yeah, check that out. So on the flip side, Jordan will talk about college softball as well. This Thursday, June 1st, we're going to start the first day of the Women's College World Series in Oklahoma City. I got 4, by the way, from 2 weeks ago. I told you what 8 teams I predicted to make it to Oklahoma City. I got 4. I got Oklahoma, Stanford, I got Florida State, and I got Washington. So, half and half. The big shocker for everyone here is that 2-seeded UCLA went 2-0. It's the worst performance for a top 8 national seed in college softball tournament history. 2-0. They lost to Grand Canyon on the opener. In the elimination game, they went down to Liberty and were eliminated just like that. San Diego State coming out of that, their first super regional appearance for San Diego State. They went to face Utah, and Utah, hosting a super regional for the first time ever, took them down 2-1. One of only 2 super regionals that went to 3 games, the other being in Tuscaloosa. I had Northwestern going to the College World Series. Alabama upended them 2-1. They got big superstar Montana Fouts back and got the job done there to eliminate Northwestern, who won game 1. Alabama then won games 2 and 3 to pull off the comeback. Other than that, all 6 other super regionals went 2-0. Oklahoma, what more can you say? They did have to come back though, Jordan. They were down 7-4 down to their final strike in game 2 to Clemson, down 7-4, got a big home run to tie it up, and then in extra innings in the 9th, they got a go ahead game winning home run to send themselves to Oklahoma City. Stanford 2-0 at Duke. Florida State took down Georgia. Oklahoma State dominated Oregon. Kelly Maxwell, the star pitcher for the Cowgirls, was 2 outs away from a perfect game in game 2 there. Gave up a couple hits at the end, but shut down the Ducks big time. Washington, after the miracle comeback, down 6-0 against McNeese in the 7th inning in their regional. They pulled off the 7-run comeback in that 7th inning to win it, and then they dominated Louisiana in the Super Regional to keep the momentum going. Tennessee crushed Texas in the other one. So we look ahead at the bracket come this Thursday. Oklahoma and Stanford, Alabama, Tennessee, and then Oklahoma State will play Florida State, and Utah will take on Washington. It is going to be an action-packed next couple weeks. Next week, I should say.
I've been meaning to tell you something. You broke the cardinal rule of perfect games. Do not mention the perfect game. You sent me a snap when they were 1 inning away. And of course, it wasn't going to happen because of that. So don't be doing that. I know what's going on. I get alerts. Obviously, that's in reality. There's nothing scientifically based about the sportscasters cursing a perfect game. But to quote Michael Scott, I'm not superstitious, but I am a little stitious. Jesse, stop me if you've heard this before. The Raiders could be in trouble. Should you stop?
You don't say.
Stop. Yeah. Okay, so here's the latest news with the team from Las Vegas. Jimmy Garoppolo, their quarterback, their new quarterback that they signed for 3 years, has a foot injury, obviously. He had surgery. Jesse, he failed his physical. And so they had to rework the contract. So now in that contract, there is a waiver where the Raiders could cut him because of the failed physical if he does not become available before the start of the season. Wow. All this quarterback movement in the offseason. The Raiders get their guy in Jimmy Garoppolo. And now it's turning into what could be a complete disaster. They don't draft one of those guys in the first round. Obviously, they're one of the teams who passed on Will Levis in the draft. One of many teams, obviously, but they were a team that a lot of people were saying could be a team of need. The mock draft round that I did with Jackson a few episodes back, I actually had Will Levis going to the Raiders. He was available. I mean, I don't know if they really saw this coming, but it feels like one of those things where they didn't really do their due diligence on it.
Man, yeah, what a gut punch for the Raiders. But yeah, I kind of agree with you. Coming in that he's hurt. So you kind of have to expect something that could affect his medical availability. And failing a physical, definitely one of those things. So yeah, I don't think they did their due diligence at all, Jordan. That's a gut punch right there.
Yeah, and you feel bad for Garoppolo too. He's one of those guys that's hard to hate. At best, he's far better than serviceable. He's a very valuable quarterback. His winning percentage is ridiculous. I know he's been on good teams throughout his career, but the man knows how to win. Plain and simple. Whether it's pretty or not, he knows how to win. So, I mean, I understand why you would make the move. You're hoping for the best. But also throughout this man's history, even when he took over for Tom Brady, he got injured in those couple games that he was supposed to just fill in during a suspension. So, but you think about it, if this is the route the Raiders go for whatever reason, who else is available? Carson Wentz is the guy who comes to my mind. His career has taken an unfortunate spiral downward. I don't know if it's really a lack of talent, but I don't think that he's the guy that we thought was going to be the MVP candidate in 2017 before he got hurt. You do have Brian Hoyer on your roster. Again, one of those Patriots who's in the building. You look at the Raiders from top to bottom, front office to coaching to their actual physical roster. Brian Hoyer's there. But you know who else is there? Tom Brady. I'm not saying.
I was actually just thinking, man, you try to pull a guy out of retirement. I wasn't necessarily thinking of Brady, but yeah.
He's going to be a part owner now. That clip didn't make the episode from last week, but we did talk about it. Brady's looking to be a part of the ownership, and Mark Davis is all in on it. I don't know. Maybe this is the move the Raiders have been trying to pull all along. I wonder what the Vegas odds are today, on Brady being the next quarterback for the Raiders.
I don't really know what to say to that.
Good Lord. I hope that that's not the case. But, I mean, even if he is, you're in a division with Patrick Mahomes. You're in a division with Justin Herbert. You're in a division with, albeit a slightly backtracked, but still what I consider to be a Hall of Famer in Russell Wilson. So who knows? Maybe there's some interest there. Maybe there's not. We know Tom Brady likes to be in divisions with weak quarterbacks. He got the heck out of the AFC East as soon as Josh Allen got there. He went to the NFC South as soon as he knew Drew Brees was about to retire. So Doesn't seem like a move that Tom Brady would want to make. But I'm just saying, you look at Michael Jordan at the end of his career, went from a front office role down to being a player again, so could happen.
Well, Jordan, we obviously can't have a Circus Catch episode right now without talking about the NHL and NBA playoffs. But first, the NHL last night, Game 6 in Dallas, and Dallas came out with a big old goose egg, getting wrecked 6-0 as Vegas takes the cake in the Western Conference. Man, I don't know what to tell you, but I watched 2 periods of that game and I was done. I turned it off. I went over to the NBA game and just Dallas had no fight, man, and it was bad. So Florida better watch out come next this weekend.
You weren't the only one who was done. The Dallas Stars fans, Jesse, were booing their team. Usually you're used to that with East Coast teams, but I was a little shocked to see that with a Dallas-based team.
It was rough. I mean, after the first period, Jordan, I don't know if you saw any of the game, but
oh yeah,
three goals in 14 minutes for Vegas, and it just looked like even in the studio, PK Subban was like, "Where's the energy from Dallas? Like, where is it? I need some energy." And then 5 minutes, not even 5 minutes after they left the studio, went back to the game, Vegas scored for the 4th time.
Here's the thing. It's one thing not to be able to fight against a team. You can see when you're outmatched. But when you don't put forth the effort, and that's what I felt like I was seeing here. Like I said, it was on the same time as the finals, so I was switching back and forth. The NBA Eastern Conference Finals, I should say. So I was switching back and forth between basketball and hockey, but whenever I would look at hockey, there was no fight from Dallas whatsoever, and you're completely right. They deserve to get booed. They did have a standing ovation at the end from some of the Dallas fans that were there, but there was just no energy. But on the flip side with Vegas, it's like we've said before, Jesse, they are an all or nothing team. They tend to either get dominated or do the dominating. And in this game, they came out ready. They were ready to dominate. They didn't want to go back to Vegas unless they were hosting the Florida Panthers.
Yeah, and I think you look at, obviously we've been talking a lot about the Panthers. I don't want to call it a Cinderella story, but it's been a crazy run. And even going through Boston, going through Carolina, I think they're prepared to take on this team with so much fight in Vegas. So I am really excited for this weekend, man.
In that case, I need to get this from you right now because it seems like this is the direction you're going. Are you picking the Florida Panthers to beat the Vegas Golden Knights?
I think I've already said it before. I do not like Vegas. I cannot stand Jack Eichel for obvious reasons as a Sabres fan. I am going to go with Florida in 6.
In 6. Oh, okay. Is this the first time you've picked Florida in the playoffs?
Yes, it is. About time I stopped getting burned. Watch, though. I'm going to pick Florida for the first time, and Vegas is going to go in 4 and sweep them.
Well, Vegas certainly has the talent to take the whole thing. We've seen it throughout the playoffs. But man, Florida, it's like you said, all these teams that were supposed to beat them. You've got the Boston, you've got the Toronto, you've got Carolina. All of these teams looked like they were going to outmatch them, and Vegas looks like they're going to outmatch Florida. But look at this last series with Carolina. Each one of these wins was by 1 goal. Each one. Florida knows how to outlast teams that are bigger and stronger. And I said it a couple episodes back. It's Rocky IV, man. They're just outlasting the Ivan Drago, the onslaught that he brings, every single series. And then they come back and they just punch him when he's too worn out to fight. And so for that reason, I'm also going to take Florida in the next round. But I will say it goes to Game 7 because I like to see drama.
Oh, yeah, drama is definitely brewing here. I think, like you said, Florida doesn't go out like Vegas and punch people in the mouth and take it from the drop of the puck, right? They are just going to roll with you, match you, and then at the very end, gut punch you. And I was looking at an article and on a forum, I forgot where it was, but talking about Matthew Tkachuk being he's now got to be considered the best player from the 2016 draft. I mean, this kid is just putting on a show. It's like the Heat's version of Jimmy Butler, right? And this is what Florida needed, somebody to get to that echelon, because they've been having this whole season. Florida has been a team of a whole crew where they just they get by, but they're not performing at their best level. Now they've got a playmaker who stepped up on the big stage and has gotten them this far, and that's what Tkachuk has done. And man, I don't know. I really think this Florida Panthers team can take it to Vegas in the Stanley Cup final.
How about Tkachuk in that closeout game, man? Yeah, like you said, he's
5 seconds left.
Yeah.
Oh, what a killer, man.
One of the most clutch performances, obviously in franchise history, but probably NHL playoff history. In total, this is one of the games you're going to look back on and say, wow, this was one of the best performances I've ever seen. One of the most thrilling endings to a playoff game ever.
There's no way you're going to forget his name anymore. You know, he is at that echelon now. He's with the Connor McDavids, and he's with guys like Jack Eichel, who I hate to admit it, but Sidney Crosby. He's with that crew of guys, Alexander Ovechkin, who can step up on the big stage and get it done when it matters most. And that's what I really like about this Panthers team. They ride on him and they get to another level behind him. And that first line for Florida gets it done. That's what Vegas has really done too. It's been their first line for the most part. Yeah, Perrier had the first goal for Vegas last night, but for the most part, it's been that first line, Jonathan Marchessault, Jack Eichel getting it done. Florida, now they've got a first line that's going to match up with Vegas really well. I think this is, dude, Saturday can't come quick enough.
So it took a little longer than expected. Last week, I don't know if you saw the show, but Richard got the broom out. He was ready to sweep the Celtics. Didn't quite happen in 4. Didn't quite happen in 5. Didn't quite happen in 6. But the important thing for the Miami Heat is they got it done in 7. And man, what an onslaught that Game 7 was. The Celtics had some thrilling performances, especially Game 6. Shout out Derek White with that little last-second tip-in that forced Game 7 in Boston. But this Game 7 in Boston was Miami's, and they dominated the entirety of the game. Jesse, I will say, in my opinion, the game is much, much closer if Jason Tatum doesn't roll his ankle in the first 13 seconds of the game, which is very unfortunate. You do want to see teams at their full strengths competing against each other. I sort of liken it to Brock Purdy getting hurt in the NFC Championship a few months back. At the end of the day, though, Miami came to play. They were prepared. What I love about this is they booked their ticket to Denver. They said, we are going to Denver. We're not booking a flight back home to Miami. Our flights are booked to Denver. We are going there. We might as well win the damn thing and get ourselves out there.
Miami, even in that first quarter and stuff, and they had the 11-point lead at halftime, they really came out and punched Boston in the mouth on their home floor, just like Vegas did on Dallas's home ice. Neither game was a contest throughout much of it. Kudos to Miami. They were ready to go to Denver, and they better be ready for Denver too.
Oh yeah, it's going to be a tough matchup. I mean, Denver, you look all the way around. Where are they weak? In what spot are they weak? In their market? That's the only thing I can think of. It's their market is not the size of a Los Angeles or a Boston or a New York or a Chicago or a Philadelphia. That's their weakness. Front office is good. Coaching is good. Starting 5 is phenomenal. Their superstar is a legitimate superstar. He is a sure lock for the Hall of Fame already at this young of an age. I mean, tell me otherwise. Honestly, tell me otherwise.
It's hard to think about, though. He's got his team to a NBA Finals for, correct me if I'm wrong, the first time in franchise history.
Correct.
Yeah, it blows my mind to think about that, though. Hall of Fame status already.
Well, here's the thing. We've never seen anybody like him. The closest things we have are Giannis and obviously Joel Embiid, but we've never seen anything like the Joker. Never. And that's why he's so unstoppable. And that's why he was just a couple votes shy of getting a third straight MVP this year. And we know how the NBA doesn't like to carry on MVP after MVP after MVP, or else LeBron would have more than 4. LeBron would have dominated the award about 10 years in a row. You look at these 8 seeds, both of them from the Miami metro area. This is only the 10th time that a city has put forward a team from the NBA and the NHL in their respective finals. The last time it happened for a metro area was 2016 when the Golden State Warriors and the San Jose Sharks went. No team has ever won both. And as much as I love the story of the Miami Heat, I love this run that they've gone on. I love how their bench has stepped up and performed. Shout out Caleb Martin with a huge series, but especially Game 7 in the Eastern Conference Finals. Jesse, I'm taking the Denver Nuggets in 5.
Jokic is playing, like we've been talking about, at such a high level, and he's got a crew around him. And I didn't really follow their series with Los Angeles because every game was on, past my bedtime. So, but looking at the highlights and stuff, you just see the crew that he has around him. Yeah, I gotta go. I'm gonna say it'll go to 6 because I want to give Miami the credit where credit's due for the run that they've had. But yeah, nothing tells me that they're gonna have a chance to match up for 7 games with Denver.
And I don't mean to be so blatantly disrespectful. I mean, you look at what the Heat have done. Jimmy Butler obviously has that dog in him. You look at, they're going to get Tyler Hero back in this series, most likely by Game 3 is what they're saying right now. Eric Spoelstra has that championship DNA. Pat Riley, and this is an interesting stat. Pat Riley, between being a player, a coach, and a front office person, has been to 24.3% of all NBA finals. He's been to nearly a quarter of every NBA final throughout his career. What an insane stat. That's once every 4 years through the history of the NBA. He's been to the finals.
That is insane. Wow. Yeah, that's a mind blower right there. I don't know how well that's going to translate on the court for them in this series, but still, that's wild.
That is Heat culture for you. So if there is, I guess if we're being serious and we're saying outside of market, there is maybe one area of weakness for Denver. They don't have the experience necessarily, but I mean, they do have these veterans who have been there before. You think of Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, who's been there before. They did a great job of scouting for these veterans, getting them on the team, getting them to buy in, and having the younger players buy in around them. And then also fusing the talent of Nikola Jokic, of Jamal Murray, of, believe it or not, Aaron Gordon, who was a superstar out of nowhere because he's been elevated by the people around him. I just don't see any way, unfortunately for Miami, that they are going to win this series. I think it is Denver's time, and I think that we're going to look back at this series and say, wow, what a great run by Miami, but it wasn't quite historic enough to beat what could potentially be the beginning of a dynasty in the Denver Nuggets.
That's interesting to think about too. Like we were just saying, it's the first time they've ever been to the finals, but with that crew that they've got, keep that intact. And if the front office can maintain that, yeah, you're right. I think this could be a decade of dominance for Denver, really.
For a long time, the West was extremely strong, and just over the last few years, it seems like they've been deteriorating a little bit where they don't have the top-level talent. I don't think it's completely shifted because the East was so weak for so long. Not to take anything away from LeBron James, but, I mean, he ran through the East for 8 years, and despite the greatness of that one player, like, nobody does that. So the Western Conference is definitely not getting as strong. There are some marquee teams. Obviously, you look at Phoenix, but they have some issues right now. Memphis has a ton of issues, but when fully healthy, they could be a dominant team, and you feel like they're not going anywhere for a while as long as they can get their stuff together. Sacramento's an interesting team. I don't know if they can maintain that level that they've been at this year, but you look at Denver, and they're the one thing that looks consistent all the way across the board. Their head coach, Malone, is the 4th longest tenured coach in the NBA right now, which is kind of weird to think about. Eric Spoelstra being number 2, by the way. You can't really predict a dynasty. That's not really something that you can look ahead and say can definitively happen. Teams crumble all the time after championship runs, but hey, the Golden State Warriors just did it. You look before them, the Miami Heat did it for a little bit. The Spurs did it. The Lakers did it. So it's not unprecedented, but it's hard to predict. But I see the makings from this team of what a lot of those teams did as well. Well, folks, it's that time again. We've come to the end of another fabulous episode of the Circus Catch. Some of you guys have been wondering, where the heck is Jackson Cochran? I'm not actually going to make him eat his hat, guys. Come on, that's unhealthy. It's also unsanitary, depending on the hat. Actually, Jackson, ladies and gentlemen, is a first-time father. So big congrats to Jackson and his wife. Their daughter Charlotte was born on May 29th. We are all super happy for them. Hopefully we can have Jackson on before the end of season 1. I mean, obviously, if you've had a child, you know how new babies are, so we will see, but we would love to have our friend Jackson on. And Jackson, once again, congratulations. So happy for you. There's a lot of men out there that I know that would not make great fathers. You are not one of those men. You are going to be a great father, and you already are. I can definitely tell from the conversations we've had.
Big congrats, Jackson. Big congrats.
Jesse, you will be joining us next week from a different location. Is that correct?
Yeah, I'll have the flag in a new backdrop next week. My family and I going on vacation. We will be in southern Utah next week for the show, and then, you know, just enjoying a much-needed vacation. I'm
really happy for you too. You need to get the heck out of town.
Looking forward to it, my friend.
Yep. All right, folks. Well, from at the moment, Oklahoma to at the moment, California. Thank you guys once again for joining us. We'll see you next time. I am not a crook. Peace out.
Peace.
These are getting dumber and dumber.
Oh.